What's good? Welcome in. You're watching NBA Now. Our coverage of 2023 NBA free agency does begin here on day 2. I'm Chase Senior alongside Nick Roloff. We're going to go through all of the moves that have currently happened throughout the first 2 days of NBA free agency, but a couple more trades have transpired as well. We'll get to those. Obi Toppin to the Indiana Pacers, one of the big ones, and a potential trade looming as Damian Lillard has finally ripped the Band-Aid off, requesting a trade from the Portland Trail Blazers. He also posted on Instagram pretty much a goodbye to the city of Portland in the Pacific Northwest, so it looks as though it's just a matter of time as for when Damian Lillard will get dealt. So Draymond Green really kicked things off in NBA free agency. The first player to sign yesterday at 6 o'clock Eastern time, a 4-year, $100 million contract. When you look at these deals here, Rolly, which deals stand out? And I guess I can ask you with Draymond on our minds right now, too much for Draymond to Golden State, or a deal that you like considering the impact that he has?
You know, I think Draymond actually is the only way. The Warriors are the only team that are going to sign Draymond Green to this contract, right? Maybe a team bites on Draymond, but there is no organization that could have Draymond Green's impact be what it is other than the Golden State Warriors. He just fits so nicely next to Steph Curry, next to Klay Thompson. So this is the only team that makes sense to give Draymond a contract like this. Now, is it an overpay for what Draymond actually brings statistically? Yes, but there is a lot of intangibles that can go unpaid or unmentioned, like his leadership, his toughness, and his veteran experience in that locker room. So I think it is worth it for Golden State to retain one of the best Warriors players of all time.
Yeah, and still one of the best defensive players in the NBA, one of the best defensive players of this generation, was an all-NBA defender, and a guy who sometimes the offense does go through Draymond Green from that high post, him playing that point forward position. So important with the dribble handoffs to give some space to Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and some of the other players in that Steve Kerr offense. Trey Lyles, 2 years, 16, a big who can shoot. I really like what the Sacramento Kings have done this offseason as well as last offseason and what they've done over the last couple of drafts. Karis LeVert, 2 years, $32 million to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Rolly, the Phoenix Suns pretty much have rounded out their roster, and they did it all in day one. A lot of players on veteran minimum deals, which is what they had to do with Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, DeAndre Ayton on that squad. But good value for good players, I believe, for Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see this potentially with Miami adding Damian Lillard through a trade. If that does happen, you're going to see a lot of teams or go after veterans who are willing to take minimum deals to go ring chase. You saw it with Keita Bates-Diop. You see it with Drew Eubanks. The Suns are going to compile a lot of minimum veterans that will want to go play for a championship in Phoenix. It's worked out so far for them. You've seen it a couple times with Miami. I'll mention it up. They're gearing up. Only can sign veterans, Josh Richardson and Thomas Bryant, to name a couple. But veterans that are going to sign on the minimum with championship contending teams is always a story from offseason to offseason, and the Suns have done an excellent job through the first 24 hours.
Couple of big money deals, too, to start NBA free agency. Kobe White, 3 years, 40. It's kind of $33 million when you look at the intricacies of that contract. Bruce Brown, 2 years, 45. Taurean Prince, a depth piece to the Lakers, 1 year, 4.5. And then Kyle Kuzma, 4 for 102. Kobe White, Bruce Brown, Kyle Kuzma. Too much in your estimation? What do you think about those transactions?
I think Kyle Kuzma got the exact right amount of money. I mean, 24 million.
Tradable contract, too, in the future.
I think Kuzma's worth it, too. Him and Jordan Poole are obviously going to man the fort for Washington this upcoming year, so I expect a lot of shot attempts from those two. Bruce Brown, I could believe, is a little bit overpaid, but it is
team option on that second,
for year 2, so if Indiana doesn't like what they get from Bruce Brown in year 1, they could elect to move on. Or if they were planning on trying to compete this year for a championship with Bruce Brown being a piece and that doesn't work out, they can move on very easily. So it is an interesting contract when you look at how much money is getting paid per year, but it is very easy for the Pacers to get out of it.
Who is your favorite signing of NBA free agency thus far? I really like the value of Austin Reaves at $14 million, age ascending player. The path, the dude has been in the lab improving his game. Drop us a name down below in the comment section. you look at more of what the Suns have done here. No need to really spend more time on Phoenix. We really like what they've been able to do. So some of these moves like Diop, 39% at 6'8", and you get him on a vet-min deal. Like, that's a pretty solid deal. DeAndre Jordan, once again, will be a backup to Nikola Jokic, and the Denver Nuggets will probably barely play. Jeremy Grant, $30 million per year. And now Damian Lillard is going to request a trade. The Trailblazers could take that deal away, but our indications are that the Portland Trailblazers are still going to pay him that money, and maybe it makes sense from a roster standpoint. You have to pay money to somebody, right? You have Anthony Simons, you have Scoot Henderson, you have Shaedon Sharpe. Jeremy Grant can fit alongside those players, but 30-plus mil per is a lot for a player like that. But look, credit to him for developing his craft. He's been about 39-40% over the last couple of years from three-point range. It can give you 20 points per game.
Yeah, Jeremy Grant's a good player. Is he what he's getting going to be paid on a per-year basis worthy? Probably not. But like Chase mentioned, you have to pay it to someone. And now that Blazers team is going to try to see what they can build with the future with Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, and Scoot Henderson. So we'll have to see what Portland will do. Maybe they get another good young player back, whatever team Damian Lillard goes to, and they could start building something new in Portland.
You're a great basketball mind here at Chat Sports. Kristaps Porzingis to the Celtics. Is that a move that you've liked? I haven't talked to you about that yet.
Yeah, it is actually a really good deal. You could say that the Celtics' biggest need is a legit point guard to help facilitate Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But another thing they could have really used is front court scoring. And what made them so lethal last season in the postseason where they made the NBA Finals is that they had Al Horford playing out of his mind. Difference into this postseason where they got bounced by the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals, Al Horford, Robert Williams gave them no front court scoring. And I think Kristaps Porzingis is going to change that. And he's going to be really effective in Boston. This is a good move. I would have said that puts them as the best team in the East. But if Damian Lillard does get traded to Miami, I think it's going to be maybe a potential Celtics Heat three times in 5 years in the Eastern Conference Finals. Could be nuts.
Yeah, I agree. Like, Joel Embiid might dominate Porzingis offensively, but then Porzingis can get out to that three-point arc, and Embiid struggles to get out to that arc, especially when he gets tired or when he's injured inevitably throughout the NBA playoffs. More deals to get to here. Javon Carter, 3 years, 20. You bring back Kobe White, you bring back Javon Carter. You're really trying to make up for Lonzo Ball being injured, I guess, and those are going to be your point guards for Chicago now.
Yeah, I like Javon Carter. He's actually a really solid player. I think it's a great contract. It just doesn't make sense for me to have him go to Chicago. If that was his best offer, sure, I think that's what you're worth in Javon Carter. He's shown growth and an ability to hit the three-point shot at an elite level. I just don't understand what Chicago's doing. It's been a little bit of a mystery in the Chat Sports office. Are they trying to compete? Are they not? I guess they're trying to win games in this league with Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic. It truly makes no sense.
Yeah, I was asked earlier, George Niang to Cleveland. Is that because the Sixers don't want to bring him back? They can't afford him. Just under $9 million. They couldn't have afforded a player like that who the last 2 years has shot 40% from three-point range. Solid rotational pickup for Cleveland. They are going to take a lot of three-pointers this upcoming season. Be sure to subscribe to us here on Chat Sports. We've been live for the first 2 days of NBA free agency, and we're not stopping. Live several hours for day one. Live several hours for day two. We'll be back tomorrow, next day, day after that, continuing to break all of these moves down. So make sure you hit that sub button for year-round NBA, but also NFL coverage as well, with NFL training camp set to take place at the end of this month. My mind is blown that it's already July 1st. More signings here. Kyrie Irving re-upping with the Dallas Mavericks, 3 years, $126 million. Joe Ingles to the Magic, 2 years, $22. Chris Middleton opted out of $40, getting less, but then gets long-term financial security with $102 million over 3 years with Milwaukee. Jakob Poeltl, 4 years, $80. Couple of notes here. I don't think Kyrie had another market. Coop was in shambles, obviously, about Kyrie maybe leaving, and rightfully so. If they lost Kyrie, it would have been a disaster for the Dallas Mavericks. For them to retain him, it's really important. I think the Magic, they needed to pay a veteran, and they pay Joe Ingles, who's a good three-point shooter. Maybe a veteran presence helps that really young team out, but they are not going to win. Maybe they could flip him to a playoff team at the NBA trading deadline. You nailed the Jakob Poeltl 4 years for 80, though.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that his market was very similar to Nikola Vucevic's, and as soon as we saw him get a 3-year, $60 million extension, I kind of assumed Poeltl would go for the same amount of money annually. I was a little bit wrong about Brook Lopez's market, but I mean, Jakob Poeltl, it's an interesting guy. He's 27, doesn't bring too much to the table, but he's a good passer, good inside scorer, decent defender. Toronto is in a little bit of that Chicago Bulls territory where they're in the middle of, they'll probably be between the 7th seed and 10th seed in the Eastern Conference. They're not good enough to compete for a championship. They lost Fred VanVleet. Toronto Raptors, I like the player, don't love what they're doing or showing financially for the long term.
Cam Johnson, I think, is a really good young player. You can either flip him for another asset or to get maybe a Damian Lillard, although I find that to be highly unlikely. I don't know why Dame would want to go to Brooklyn, or if you want him to be a young building block, he can be that. Good defender, three-point shooter. Trade Jones to San Antonio, an affordable point guard when they needed it. Gabe Vincent, 3 years, 33 to the Los Angeles Lakers. Yuta Watanabe, this was said to be a very Kevin Durant move. They played together with the Brooklyn Nets, and if you leave him open, he can make you pay. Vincent D'Lo, going to be your backcourt for the Lakers this upcoming season. Shake Milton to the Minnesota Timberwolves, 2 years, 10. Herb Jones, for a bit, I thought maybe his future was in doubt with New Orleans because I wasn't sure if they were going to give him a contract extension. 4 years, 54 for a very, very good defensive player. Josh Richardson, back to Rolly's Heat, 2 years, 6. Rui Hachimura, 3 years, 51. He played so well down the stretch for Los Angeles, and the fact that the Lakers flipped Kendrick Nunn for him, highway robbery by Rob Pelinka, and then Kevin Love here. Like, let's just talk a little bit about the Miami Heat. They could get Damian Lillard, but they needed to bulk up their depth, and I feel like they've been able to do that. Thomas Bryant no longer now giving minutes to Zeller. Like, that's a pretty solid movement for you.
Yeah, outside of the breaking news that Damian Lillard has requested a trade, and according to Shams Charania, his preferred destination is the Miami Heat. They have done a very solid job at filling 3 roster spots on vet minimum deals. Both Thomas Bryant, Josh Richardson, external free agents that resign at the minimum, and then you've got Kevin Love re-signing on a 2-year deal. But something to note, Josh Richardson and Kevin Love both have player options after year 1. Richardson, though, the most interesting note for him is that he had better offers financially from the Minnesota Timberwolves, from the Boston Celtics, but Eric Spoelstra called up Jay Rich and said, hey, we got a big role for you to come here and contribute to a good winning basketball team. Bet on yourself, and then if you want to test free agency again next year, you can with that player option.
Fred VanVleet, we knew that the Rockets had more than $60 million to spend in NBA free agency. $43 million per for Fred VanVleet. He's a really good player. He's getting paid superstar money. I don't think he's a superstar, right?
Certainly is not. And this is one of those moves like the Raptors signing Jakob Poeltl to that extent, or that contract. I don't know what the Rockets are doing. Do they think they can actually compete in the Western Conference? And I get you have to spend your money somewhere, and they had a lot of cap space, but allocating $43 million to Fred VanVleet, someone who doesn't even shoot 43.3% from the field, I don't really get the move for VanVleet going to Houston, especially when you just drafted Amen Thompson.
Continuing to move forward here with this free agency tracker, I thought it was so funny, the report of everybody like just complimenting Masai Ujiri. It's like you lose Fred VanVleet, but they replaced him with Dennis Schroeder, not even close to the player that VanVleet is, and $13 million per for Schroeder. That's crazy. O'Shea Brissett to the Celtics 2-year deal. Biannual for Seth Curry, $4.5 million for one of the best marksmen from distance. Like, that goes to show you the Dallas Mavericks are crushing it this offseason.
Yeah, that was a shocker to me, and I know producer Coop was all excited about this one. I thought it was going to be like $7-8 million a year, Chase, and then when Coop shouted out it's the biannual, I couldn't believe my ears.
Yeah.
Seth Curry on a 2-year, $9 million deal is an absolute steal. Nico Harrison and Mark Cuban have done a fantastic job this offseason, going to the draft and now transitioning into free agency, getting Kyrie to come back, Curry, you get Omax, and Lively in the draft alongside Rashawn Holmes. Really good offseason for the Dallas Mavericks.
And Derrick Rose, multi-year deal to the Memphis Grizzlies. Hopefully he can get Ja Morant in line because Ja, very, very special player. Least favorite signing of free agency so far. We've asked you for your favorite. How about the least favorite? Drop us a name. Gary Trent Jr., contract extension with the Toronto Raptors. Tyrese Halliburton, as part of this wave of some of these extensions, LaMelo Ball getting one of these, 5 years, $260 for that draft class in 2020. Desmond Bane, holy Bane, 5 years, $207. A lot of people were saying, like, these players aren't worth these contracts. Like, Halliburton, very, very good player, one of the top point guards in the NBA. Desmond Bane, very good three-point shooter and defender. Like, I kind of like those deals for those teams, and they've earned it.
Yeah, Desmond Bane, I could see being a little too pricey, but hey, when you're signing these guys to these deals, you've got to also account for the salary cap going up in the near future. So in like 4 to 5 years, or I should say 3 to 4 years, when Halliburton and Bane are in the middle of these contracts, the going rate for those type of players might be more than it is now. And I point to this about Bam Adebayo. When he signed his max rookie contract extension, it was like 5 for $167.
Yeah.
You're telling me right now 30 teams wouldn't sign up for Bam Adebayo at 5 for $167. So you're kind of also projecting into the future what contracts will look like, and that you're getting a discount now because they are coming off that initial rookie deal.
Jaxson Hayes, another move for LA. The guy's been a little bit erratic since being a first-round pick, but as a depth piece, you can do worse. And then, Coop, how do you say Sasha's name here? Sasha Vezenkov? A couple of international players signing today. And then while I have you, Vasilije Micic, 3 years, 23. You actually said he's a really good player, right? Yeah, very solid player. Dennis Smith Jr. to the Brooklyn Nets, 1 year deal. Thomas Bryant to the Miami Heat, 2 years, 5.5. D'Angelo Russell back to the Lakers, 2 years, 37. A lot of these moves, by the way, happening here on this fine Saturday. Patrick Beverly, 1 year deal to Philadelphia. There's some chatter that with him coming back, maybe the Sixers bring back James Harden. I don't know. We'll see. James Harden always in his feelings. And then Brook Lopez, 2 years, 48. He gets more than Vooch. He gets more than Pirtle. He gets the most money as of right now among all centers so far in free agency, right?
Yeah, and this is the one I was a little off on an annual money perspective. I thought it was going to be closer to $15, $18 million per year because he's 37-year-old. I understand it was going to be a short-term contract with the Milwaukee Bucks, but I did expect it to be on that lower side because of how old he is. He's coming off a pretty serious injury. He did have one of his best seasons of his career after he re-transcended his game into a 3-and-D stretch big that can also be the runner-up in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Brook Lopez getting a massive payday, and the Milwaukee Bucks are loading up all their guys in this next 2 to 3 year window, where if Giannis doesn't sign an extension, the Bucks are going to be left with an interesting decision to make because Holiday, Lopez, Middleton, and Giannis, all current contracts, would end in that 2 to 3 year period from right now.
Yeah, we talked about Austin Reaves a little bit earlier. 14 mil per for Austin Reaves, ascending player, can hit three, can create a little bit, solid defender. I really like this deal for the Lakers. I think that Rob Pelinka's continued to crush it, so he gets that extension. And then just like the Desmond Bane extension, Tyrese Halliburton extension, this is kind of like that rookie max, right? The 5 years, $260 for LaMelo Ball. This is the same exact deal that Tyrese Halliburton got. I think it's inevitable that probably LaMelo Ball going to try to demand a trade in about a year or two if things continue to go awry in Charlotte. Another reminder, subscribe to the show. We are 500 people away from 343,000 subscribers. Join the movement here at Chat Sports. We're going to continue to crush it and give you informative, entertaining, insightful analysis, so hit that sub button right now.